So I'd like to share a story with you about a man with a withered arm. I was in the country of Ukraine, in Kiev. I was in a conference with Brother Chester Wright, and we were team teaching. He did most of the teaching. And in one of the sessions, my arm began to hurt, a lot of pain. And it wasn't going away. It just seemed to get worse. And I wasn't sure what in the world was going on as I sat there in that meeting. Some of the sessions were very long. And then when we left the meeting and we went back to where we were staying in like a hotel complex, my arm was fine. My arm was fine as soon as we left the building. And then we returned and went into another session a couple of hours later, and my arm started hurting again. And it was very, very painful. And I thought, wow, this is really strange. Well, I reflected back to many months prior. I was in a meeting in Los Angeles, again with Brother Wright. And in that meeting, he began to ask questions like, is there anybody in the room that has, pain shooting down the left leg? And couple of people would raise their hands, and he'd say, well, why don't you stand where you are? We're not going to have you come to the front, and we're just going to pray. We're not going to lay hands on you. We're just going to pray. And so we prayed. People were healed. And then he would say, do you have a pain going down the back of your head or something to this effect somewhere in your body? And again, there would be 2 or 3 people raise their hands, and he would say, why don't you just stand where you are. We don't need to come to you, and we're going to pray. And we prayed. Now, that went on for 45 minutes, as from person to person to person. Now, I'd never seen that before, either with Brother Wright or anybody else. And so I was reflecting back on this with this whole thing with my arm hurting. And so I spoke to Brother Wright, and I said, I told him what was going on. And he said, okay, in a minute, I'm going to give you the microphone. I said, I don't need the microphone. I don't need to do anything. I'm just telling you about it. He said, no, you're going to take the microphone. So in a few minutes, he gives me the microphone, and I don't remember what I said now, but I thought I would kind of mimic what I saw there in Los Angeles. But I said, is there anybody in the room? This is after I kind of scanned the room, and I saw an older woman near the back, and I thought she looked very sick. And I thought, I bet that's the person. I bet something's going on in her life. And so when I said, is there anybody that's got problems or pain with their arm, would you stand up? Well, 3 people stood up, and the lady was not one of them. And I thought, oh my goodness, now what am I going to do? Well, we began to pray, and in just a few moments, there was a man standing just 4 feet in front of me. The room was very, very dark, couldn't see very well. And he was a man maybe between 60 and 70 years old, older man. I don't know what language he spoke. There were many languages in the room. And all at once, he shot his arm out. He began to spin it around like a windmill. And later on, Brother William Turner, the missionary there, told us that he was born with a withered arm and had lived that way all his life. And in that moment, the Lord filled his arm with muscle, and he began to swing it around and scream. I heard later that Brother Turner has shared around the country as he travels about that miracle that happened that day. I've experienced healing in my life. I know many people who have experienced instantaneous healing in their life. It's a beautiful thing to witness, and it truly is just the hand of God moving in a great way. He wants to heal. He wants to heal. He does heal. In Jesus' name.